lovely morning, not yet a lovely morning, because you're going to have an encounter with Sarah Maingi, who's going to share with us a story about how the inheritance is afflicted, or she's afflicted in her inheritance. What do you think about inheritance and succession right here in the country? Even as we dive into the conversation, I wouldn't talk so much or too much further, but I'll give her a space to introduce herself, then we get down to the bottom line of your story.
Thank you very much for having me.
Indeed.
And good morning, yet not such a good morning.
Indeed.
My names are Sarah Maingi Hillman, and I live in Athi River, stroke the UK.
Indeed. All right. Thank you so much, Sarah, for honoring the invite and, of course, coming to share your story with us. This is the Morning Drift. You're much welcomed. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the 14th of March 2025, and 13th rather, of March 2025. And for the first time, we are having this conversation which matters to so many other Kenyans, so many other locals that are within and are watching the show right here. And it's a privilege, of course, that you're encountering with us. Remember, you can share with us in the conversation right on Facebook and YouTube. What is your thought on this? Later on, we'll invite Cecile, a lawyer, to make us understand what is the bottom line on succession and inheritance. You've mentioned something very different, of course. Remember, in the times of the struggle to get land, the struggle to get ownership, there's so much confusion that comes with it. Before we get to your story, what do you think is the confusion that comes in land ownership?
I think the biggest confusion is that the fact that, you know, it's almost like women should not inherit.
Women?
It's sort of like most men feel that women should not inherit.
Why so?
So anything that a woman is given, it seems to be challenged. I think that's a really big problem.
Indeed. And you said you had 3 brothers.
Now I've got 2 brothers.
2 brothers?
And we were all given, you know, inheritance from my parents. My parents made it very clear, which we agreed on, because that was before, you know, making it an equal, you know, share between girl and boy. But at that time, we had already accepted that we are going to get a 1 share, as our brothers get 2 shares. And that was fine. We had no problem with that. And that's what happened.
So in the light of what is happening, why do you say about women are not allowed to have the spaces of ownership?
Well, not so much with, you know, with my family, or my brothers for that, you know, reason. It's just that I feel from what we had, even though we only had 1 share, they had 2 shares, we've not had any peace in what we've been given, because it just still feels like, you know, they want to run the show for us.
Indeed.
Especially one brother. He still wants to run the show for us. So it's like we have our titles, everything is as it is, but these issues keep coming up like we're not really the owners of that land.
You sound afflicted.
Well, 100%, and that's because it's been going on, you know, from when we had our shares, you know, that was it. Once, you know, the administrators had done their bit, they're supposed to have left us alone because we've got our titles, and that should have been the end of the story. But previously to that, you know, we had to get, you know, court order because we could tell that administrators were not taking us the right way. So moving away from that, you know, they say blood is thicker than water.
Of course.
So we said, okay, fine, forgive your brothers, let's move on. But even after that, we were still, the court orders, it strictly said that they're not allowed to wind up anything without consulting us. So we felt we were in good hands, because most of us, you know, were abroad at that point. And we just felt, right, we've got a court order, everything should be in control.
Of course.
But no, it isn't. For some reason, I was taken to court, you know, in 2015, and it's just not clear, because these are my brothers. We should have been given all this information beforehand. Why give us titles? Why should we agree on something which is straightforward, and then you decide to change along the line because you want to please people who have got nothing to do with what we've inherited? Yes. Why are they being included?
If the inclusion is not is negative, perhaps, how did all these things start? You mentioned something in the early 90s where the law wasn't initiated to have an equal share.
Yes, that the equal share came about, but we didn't get the equal share. But we don't have a problem with that. But if they have gone ahead and sold their land and given out road, because that is the law.
Indeed.
You're not allowed to sell land to anybody unless you give them access to their property,
Indeed.
which that is all understood. So they've done that, which is fine. But then why are we now being taken to court and being forced to give out land which should be a road just because they have given out their land? But remember, they were selling their land. We haven't sold any, but now they're trying to force us to give out land, just free land, to make a way for people that live beyond us who've got nothing to do with what we've inherited. They've already got the access roads, because however they got their titles, they must have been given a road. Otherwise, they wouldn't be having titles.
Who would have given them the road?
Obviously, the Director of Survey of Kenya.
Of course.
Your father to do with the lands business, it has to go through the Director of Survey of Kenya.
Indeed.
And no deed plans would even go through if you've not shown access on how you're going to get to your property.
Your father made an alignment to all of this, that this is going to happen, and these are the shares that you guys are being distributed for. And why do we have this crisis? Since it's a family matter, and of course, perhaps the father had the bigger say. Later on, when now he passed away, then the chaos started.
Yeah, the thing is that my father owned a lot of land at that time. It was quite a big piece of land, and even the interchange. Yeah, thank you. Bless him. Even the interchange that goes to Namanga, that big interchange, that was part of my father's land. So he has done lots of subdivisions to the landed distillers and, all those other people around there. It's quite a big chunk. But he gave road to everybody.
Wow.
Ample amount of roads. That must have been acres and acres just removed for the roads.
Everybody in the family.
Everybody in the family and all the buyers that he sold land to were all given roads. So now, we were left a piece of land that we all agreed we want from the river to the other side, which is the North Boundary Road. And that's where the road had been put so that we can all have access to our piece of land, compared to the other land that my father, had already sold and whatever else. So since we knew where our road is, and the administrators actually made sure we'd agreed the road will be here, that's our access. For some reason, we get our titles without any road, our deed plans have got no roads, cutting us in the middle. Okay, so we all know our access is on the North Boundary Road, but suddenly the story turns around, and just because they've sold, okay, I'll be fair enough to say one of my brothers, my younger brother, was not involved because he said he knows there's no public road going through our land. But my older brother, he's the one who took us to court, and he sort of like got together with the neighbors from the upper side, which have got nothing to do with us. But they have somehow agreed to fight us girls in court so that they can be able to pass that road. It's more like an easement for them to cut across, dividing our land into two. We've not sold our land, but they want us to divide ours into two. And not forgetting, for me, I've built my resort very close to the road, the now road, because I knew there was no public road. So even if there's going to be a public road, it would mean that I'll have to push things backwards. How do I push a whole resort backwards?
Right.
Do you see what I mean?
Indeed. If you were to address the entire community right now, what will be your point of concern?
My point of concern, from what happened recently, and it's not the first time, this is the fourth time we have been beaten, thrown stones at, harassed. There's even a time there was at gunpoint. We've seen all sorts. And my question is, why are they doing this to us? The road is what I inherited from, the entire piece of land is the inheritance from my father. Why are they doing this to us? Wherever they bought their land should have a road. Why are they fighting us for this? And even if they did want the road, surely there should be a way we should be able to talk. Why are you taking us to the slaughterhouse? With no reason why we're going to be slaughtered.
Indeed. What's the gain in all of this? Because you're saying blood is thicker than water, and you're mentioning they every time. And it seems that there is enmity in between.
It's not so much enmity. It's just the fact that I would be able to, I'd have assumed that my brother would never have taken us to court. All he needed to do was talk to us.
Then that means there's a point of gain.
What else could it be? Because he sold his land. So it's not like he's wanting access,
Indeed.
that he had been stopped from using the road. I've never stopped him from passing through my land. Even as we speak, he's still using part of my land to get to his house. So I don't understand, why is he fighting for the other side, which have got nothing to do with us?
Indeed.
And you know, he's given them so much weight, and that's why they're doing what they're doing to us. And he's not even there to say, guys, stop it. This is my sister. Stop fighting, because I've got the power of attorney for the rest of them.
Indeed.
So he just need to say, this is family issue. Let us deal with it ourselves. When we'll need you, we'll call you into the equation. But no, he's hearing, he's not far. Even whatever incident took place the other day, they could all hear it. But nobody came to even find out, you know, have we been killed? You know, what's happened?
Got it. All right.
So it makes me think, what is it that is just keeping them, the one brother, away from all this?
Indeed. Indeed.
The one that took us to court.
What are some of the steps you've taken so far as now the law is concerned, and how this thing will be initiated to get the full rights that you want?
Well, we have equal rights. That's number one. And I should not be looked down upon because I'm a woman.
Indeed.
And unfortunately, most of us women, you know, don't have a voice
Indeed.
to talk and speak and say what's happening to them. And I just feel I am a voice for the voiceless. And that's why I'm going to continue fighting for the rights of women.
Indeed.
Yeah, and that way, things could be able to change and make it a little bit easier for us. And not for some of us, we're inheriting, and then in the middle of nowhere, you're just being bashed right, left, and center
Indeed.
with no apparent reason.
Najil is the voice of the women. There are many others, of course, that have benefited in your due course.
Oh, 100%. We've got over 400 people already. So I'll just say this whole thing, whatever's happened on the 8th of
400 women?
Over 400
Nice.
that have actually approached us and said, we are going through a similar thing.
Indeed.
How can you help? So there's some positive just come out of the negative.
What are the negatives?
The negative is the fact that we were beaten.
You were beaten?
Yeah, all of us, the whole team, because
It's
on
too
the,
strong.
shall I give you the whole story? What happened on the 8th of March?
Please share with us.
So 8th of March, just the other day,
Indeed.
was the International Women's Day. So we decided we're going to have a peaceful walk just for us to, you know, we had placards just talking about how no woman, no cry, you know, this, you know, gender-based violence needs to stop.
Indeed.
You know, just talking about basically justice for women.
Indeed.
So we literally were about to start our walk. And you won't believe it, but we had people who were inside the resort that came out. First, the ones came out from the opposite direction and just started beating us.
Targeting you.
Literally, they had pangas, you know, slashers, you know, knives and whatever they had just to beat us, and those rungus, you know, those clubs. And you were wondering, we were literally, majority of us were women, elderly women, children, and they just came in the bits and started beating us. And you know, when you're going out for a peaceful walk, and you know I don't have enemies.
Indeed.
What am I having enemies for? I don't owe anybody money.
The land.
I don't owe anybody money. I don't owe anybody land. You know, in that sense that they'll be coming to beat me because I've refused to give them what I owe them.
course.
So I couldn't understand, what is this fighting about? And it's still like a puzzle for all of us. So we didn't come out armed. We didn't come out with anything. Children, and why would you want to put elderly women and children in a situation like this, which is dangerous? So we just came out peacefully. But the peace was not peace, because when we came out, the first lot attacked us, then others came in from the resort, and all they were doing is beating us.
All right. And of course,
And smashing, hitting the vehicles, and just causing chaos.
it must be sad. When we are celebrating the International Women's Day, we had the feeling on let's join hands together in the support of women. But allow me now to ask you a question in terms of women empowerment. deliberately in the sense that women want a voice, and this voice is not coming out clearly since they feel that their efforts are futile. Do you think in the course of the country, the society does not accept the voices of the women?
One thing I can tell is that women are very powerful. But you still have those traditions that the man is the head. I don't know where the woman comes in, really.
All right.
And you can see that clearly by the way they don't like us to speak out. They don't want to hear us, you know?
Indeed.
And you can see you've got a lot of powerful women.
Of course.
Let's talk about Kenya. There's a lot of powerful women. And if only we could be placed somewhere and then we could be heard, it would make things even better for the entire country. But when you suppress us and make us feel we don't have a right,
Indeed.
and look at it from the ones who are educated, they might stand up and say, no, we do have a right,
Indeed.
because we know what our rights are.
Right.
But there are others who don't. There's still women far out there who are still being beaten, being violated in different ways, you know, being abused, and believe me, they have no say because they don't know their rights. So we want to bring this awareness, of course, so that they can see we do have a right, and for those who don't have a voice, there are those ones who are going to voice it out for them.
Even as we conclude these few minutes that we had for the interaction, how are you putting your heads together in alignment to make sure that we are getting a solution and a proper solution to the betterment of the future?
What would really we want to try and work out is that the government as a whole understands what has happened, especially with this case of mine. If they look at it, investigate into the whole thing, find out why we were beaten, then they can maybe be able to, you know, put in some, you know, other different rules, regulations, or whatever, to try and make it easier for us to feel free. To, if we want to do a peaceful walk, we had already got permission from the OCS, it was all stamped. Nobody had weapons on us because we were moving a peaceful walk. So for us to be attacked, and especially from the old to the middle age to the young, doesn't make sense. Because if somebody was killed on that day, we've got people who are injured very badly, stitches, broken jaws and whatnot. It might sound funny to them, but whoever's been injured could have been their mother, their sister, their auntie, their child, their brother. Do you see what I mean?
Because
I had to call for
if your voice on this matter is not heard, will you accept defeat?
Never. Why should we accept defeat? I don't believe our president is against us women. So I'm expecting him to say, you know, we need to look into this. There's no reason why we should be defeated, because that's what we've been going through. Defeat. Yeah? We're always hands up, we're throwing our towels in. The more we continue doing this as women, we will never be able to be heard.
Indeed.
Because we keep quiet even before we can speak. And what do? What they've done to me is to intimidate me, instill fear, and then you shut up.
Apart from that, there are so many women out there that feel the same fear, and they say, hata kama I can't try to give a voice, because of course in the recent past we've seen so many things happening, including abductions when you raise a voice.
Yes.
What is your take on fear as we wind up the first session?
I just really feel that, honestly speaking, we shouldn't be taken through that. You know, why should you put anybody through fear? We should have freedom of speech as long as we maintain the respect and not using abusive language. I think to just air your views or, you know, what you have, whatever message you're trying to put across should be allowed without having any, you know, conflicts.
What does the future hold?
I believe there's going to be some changes. And I truly believe, and especially for the fact that we are praying, we've been fasting and praying, and we are trusting God for a change. And you know, the hours to the morning are the darkest. So unless we see that darkness, you don't really know that the breakthrough is coming through. But we really believe that all this being beaten and all the bloodshed that has taken place on the 8th, I believe this is the last bit of it before the good comes out of it.
All right. You mentioned a very wise quote there. I believe it really makes sense and to the women that are listening right now. But allow me now to give you a space If your brothers are listening right now, if your enemies are listening right now, those that knew that you're coming to the Morning Drift are listening, we'll use this camera. You just tell them what you really want and what is the best solution that you can have your heads together and come to an alignment.
Well, the first thing I want to do is speak to my brother, my elder brother, and I just want to say to you, you know, whatever we're going through, it's not the first time that we have been beaten. It's not the first time people have held, you know, guns up, shot up in the air and all these sort of different things. We've been harassed. We've had stones being thrown into my resort, being, you know, literally aimed at us. We've had others who have been hit by stones. We've also had, you know, you've seen the sort of rough time we've had. And it's not the first time. This is the fourth time. So you, my dear brother, you need to stand up and say, you know what? You don't need to see your sister going through this just because you're going to sit there as a silent listener. It's not fair. Step out and tell those people who are doing what they're doing to us that if it's about us sorting this thing out, after all, we're in court. Let the court finally decide and we move on from there. And for those of you who are sent or whatever, or paid or whatever, I don't know, please remember one thing. For anything to actually work out, we need to talk, okay? Don't force things, because you're only going to get me more angry, and that doesn't help. So anger is just going to end up into bloodshed. Why are we going that route? Just let's talk, okay? You want the road? Even if it remains a private road, that doesn't mean I'm going to not allow you to pass through the road. But you just need to talk. Don't take us through, you know, bloodshed and all this just because you want to scare me, you want to instill fear in me. I'm not me alone, I'm with God.
Indeed.
And as long as I'm with God, believe me, nobody can beat me.
And then thank you so much, Sarah Mengei Hellman, for those lovely thoughts on your brother. You're insisting so much on talk, and I believe in the near future you'll have a conversation to bring an alignment back home, and let's settle down as brother and sisterly. We have that companionship and love as well. Yeah. All the best in your encounter, and thank you so much for raising the voice for the women. It's a pleasure to have you right here on set.
Thank you.
All right.
For having me as well.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. We are taking a short breather, and when we come back, we'll really understand now what is all this inclusively on the law. What does the law say about having a will? What does the law say about inheritance and succession? And what does the law say about parties conflicting in getting the rightful ownership to a particular person? Don't go too far. This is the Morning Drift. This is the Morning Drift, and of course, I was supposed to say something that it slipped my mind, so let me handle it in the next session. Don't go too far.